How we doing? This is Fox back again for another tutorial for ADSR. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel and you want to head over there and check out some of the other tutorials, you can. It's www.youtube.com/ADSR tuts. Okay, the sound we're going to be going over today with a virus is a real sub-heavy deep house bass. Most deep house basses comprise of two parts really. It's sort of a raspy bite at the start of the sound, and then some filter envelope closing the filter up just to leave a sort of subby element behind. I've accentuated the subby element of this by using two classic waveforms, a square wave and a sine wave, and the envelope that I chose on the filter was a band pass filter. This really helps you hone in on the low parts of the sound as it closes up. So yeah, I'll show you the sound on its own without the drums. There you have it, a real sub-heavy deep house bass. So I'm going to be using part one of the virus today, so I'm going to go ahead and just drag one of these initialised patches on it. Okay, Oscillator 1, it was a grain complex waveform called Fluxbin. I chose this because it's got some nice higher end qualities and a little bit of grit, which is exactly what I wanted at the start of the sound. I pulled it back the wavetable to about 32. I pull the format shift all the way to the left, which makes it a lot deeper. Pull it down one octave. The interpolation for this I pushed up to 44. This is almost like a glide between the different formats. It helps smooth it out a bit. Okay, we're going to sync the two oscillators together. I don't normally do this when I use two such different waveforms, but it seemed to work well for this one. As I say, I used a classic waveform, and it was a square wave. I pulled this down one octave as well, -12. For the balance between these two oscillators, I normally have them dead centre, but I lent it slightly to the left, about 1/5 of the way up from the left, so it was leaning towards the Oscillator 1. I wanted this to cut through. Detune where it is as standard. Didn't do anything with the pulse width. As I say, we've synced the two oscillators together. I used some FM for this. I kept it on positive triangle. If anybody's seen me do some more tutorials before, you'll know if ever I do any FM, it's generally at this setting, 33.6, as close as you can get to a third. It's a real sweet spot within the virus. It helps the FM sort of mix with the oscillators and not destroy the sound too much. Also, we're going to push the phasing it all the way around to the right, so that every time you press a key, it's going to restart the phasing. So yeah, with these two oscillators, the FM. Oscillator 3 is a pure sine wave. This is just going to be the real subby element of the sound. Pull this down one octave as well. Oscillator 3 volume I have quite high, about 3/4 of the way up. I wanted this to really cut through the sound and be, as I say, a real sub-heavy sort of bass sound. Unison mode I set to twin. Detuned these new voices slightly to about 17. And I panned them to the side, 22%. No LFA's offset, kept the punch intensity dead centre where it comes as standard. Use a tiny bit of ring modulation before we go to the filters, about 21. So yep, the oscillator section done. We're going to go into the filter section now and set the filters up. These are our main tools for sculpting this sound. The first filter that I use is, I changed it to analog mode, kept it on a low pass filter. I put the cutoff back to about 106, 107. I'll change the envelope to negative. I say it's the envelope that really, really sculpts these sounds. What we're going to do with the envelope, we're going to use it to close this filter up over time. And it's going to be quite quick, so you're going to get the raspy elements of the Fluxbin oscillator at the start of the sound, and then as we close it and home in on the sub part, we're going to get the square wave and the sine wave cutting through. So yeah, as I say, envelope on negative, push it all the way around to about 80%, 85%. Key follow all the way to the left. We're going to set this filter envelope up now while we're here. We'll push the attack out quite a way to about 54. Decay, 65. Sustain to about 85%, and back the release right back. We only want a tiny bit of release, about 29. So yeah, just the one filter. Right, how we get to hone in on that real subby part of the sound is by using a bandpass filter. We keep the filters in series mode. That means the audio is going to flow through filter 1 into filter 2 and then through the effects section. So we are going to use this in effect to hone in on what part of the sound that we want to hear after the envelope is closed. So I'll set the cutoff at -16. Change the envelope to negative again, so it's going to close this up. Same envelope amount, so it's going to close this envelope from its position here to pretty much all the way closed, so it's just going to hone in on that real subby part, which is what we wanted. I'm going to give it a tiny bit of resonance. So yeah, both filters. Okay, that's it for the filter section. The saturation I kept as it comes as standard, the analog overdrive. You don't get a choice when you keep it in series 4 mode, and also when you're using a low pass filter, you don't get analog filter. Sorry, you don't get a choice. So yeah, that's the filter section done. We're going to set envelope 3 up quickly because we use that for some modulation later on. And the envelope is a bit different to the filter one in regards to that it's got a lot faster attack. So we keep the attack on full and just back it off ever so slightly to about 2. Decay level around to about 50 again. Sustain around to maximum. Tiny little bit of slope and a bit of release. Quite standard ADSR envelope there. Amp envelope will set up as well. All I did was back the sustain level down a bit. Same with the decay. And a tiny little bit of release. So yeah, we're going to use this filter envelope to modulate some effects later on. We'll go ahead and set the effects up first, and then we'll go to the matrix section last. So for FX 1, we have analog boost. As I say, push this mix round to about 60%, quite heavy, and pull the tune all the way to the bottom. That means we're going to aim it at the subby part of the sound. I use a bit of chorus. I don't normally use chorus on a bass, but it seemed to help the sub-element have a bit more punch to it. The mix I had at 77, I changed it to a vintage chorus. This limits the modulation tools that you've got, but it doesn't matter because it is a really nice sounding chorus. And I push your crossover around to about 60%. And I mix about 74. Bit of distortion I used is a sine fold. This is like the sine shape of what you get with massive. It's a real common sort of distortion. It's real good for basses. I had the drive quite heavy, 45%, and the mix at about 68%. Again, I wanted to aim this at the lows. I wanted to really beef up the subby part, so I didn't boost the trebles. I cut the highs to about 65% also. So with the distortion. I didn't use any phaser for this sound. What I used with the filter bank was a ring modulator. I know we've already used a bit of ring modulation before the filters, but it's nice to have a bit after as well sometimes. Helps give the sound a bit more edge. Only a tiny bit there, the mix about 6 or 7%. Frequency I had on 0. Dead centre. The stereo phase, about minus 115 degrees. I boosted the lows quite a lot because I wanted it to be a real bassy patch, about +5. Same with the mids, not quite so much, about +4. Kept the highs where it was. That's it for FX1, so we'll go ahead and do FX2. I didn't use any reverb because it's a bass and you can really muddy up your bass quick if you use a reverb. I did use a delay. I changed it to a tape Doppler. This gives you a ratio of almost like a ping pong, one being one side, one the other. I set the ratio to 4/2. The time I had at about 240 milliseconds, about 30% of feedback, so it was looping back into itself. The delay I had at minus 15 decibels. The centre frequency, I wanted the delay to focus on the higher parts of the sound, or the low mids, so I boosted it to about 80. Widened the bandwidth so it could grab hold of all of the raspy part of the sound. The modulation button is almost like an LFO. I had this about 50%. So with the delay, okay, only the matrix section to go now, and all I used it for was envelope free, as I told you earlier. I used this to modulate the distortion mix. I used it to close the distortion mix up, so you was only going to get the distortion, that sinefold distortion at the start with the raspy part of the sound, and also the chorus mix. I used this to close it up a little bit. I still wanted the chorus there to mingle with the sub-element of the sound, but not so much as at the start of the notes. So, chorus mix about minus 34. And that's it. That's the sound done. So, this is it in its entirety. Okay, there you have it, a real sub-heavy deep house bass with a chorus. Real versatile, the chorus is. Most people wouldn't think of it as using it as a bass machine. It's thought of mainly as a pad and a lead tool, but it really is that versatile. You can use it for anything. As always, make sure you check out the YouTube channel again. It's www.youtube.com/ADSR tuts. Okay, any questions or requests, leave them in the box and we'll try and get back to you. Okay, thanks a lot. Cheers.